Hi, and welcome to Chapter 1 of Organizational Behavior. In this chapter, we're going to look at what organizational behavior is. So we're going to talk about, define, and discuss the basic elements of organizational behavior and set up a framework for the rest of this course. So after studying this chapter, you should be a little bit more versed on the importance of interpersonal skills. You'll be able to define organizational behavior. You'll be able to see the value of systematic study. You'll be able to identify behavioral science disciplines that work with and contribute to the organizational behavior body of knowledge. You'll be able to demonstrate and apply the understanding of how absolutes don't always work well in organizational behavior, because organizational behavior is more of a fluid study that looks at many different situations, and it's really hard to pin down an absolute rule of what's going to work because every organization is different. Identify the challenges and opportunities managers have in applying organizational behavior concepts back to individuals and organizations, and compare the different levels of analysis that this textbook is going to look at. So the first and most important thing about organizational behavior is the importance of interpersonal skills. So you as an individual with your years of work experience or even your experiences in school understand the importance of interpersonal skills. It's basically people skills. Are you able to get along with people inside of any groups, at school, at church, at work? And now it's important to have good interpersonal skills because from the point of managers and organizational behavior, places that are good to work due to many employees and a culture that foster strong interpersonal relationships have superior financial performance. So managers are especially important to have the interpersonal skills because the managers are asked to communicate with many people who are their subordinates and also many superiors as well, vital information to the organization. So if the managers are good at their interpersonal skills and at their relationships within the organization, they'll be able to keep and attract more high-performing individuals and employees. So and this is just a basic fact, if your manager is terrible, horrible, which I've had my fair share of, you want to get away from that person. So the easiest way to get away from that person is to leave the company. So that's why it's critical that managers are good at understanding people and making a better work environment for them. So there's a really strong association between the quality of the workplace, relationships, and employee satisfaction, stress, and turnover. So if you ever worked in a business where the workplace relationships were strained, you didn't probably like your job very much or found much satisfaction in your job, and you were probably stressed all the time, and you noticed that there was a revolving door of employees in the business, and that costs money to retrain employees making mistakes because they're new. Turnover is a big cost. So increasingly, organizational behavior looks to improve this awareness of interpersonal skills and, including social responsibility awareness, which means you're not just, you have a greater society to answer to and to foster a better environment as well. So I don't think anybody listening to this would be confused about the importance of interpersonal skills and the problems you've had in your life where these interpersonal skills were insufficient or broke down either between you and your boss, or you and a family member, or you or a friend. So highly effective people have highly evolved interpersonal skills for getting along with others and producing an environment that's productive and positive and successful. Now, the field of organizational behavior is a research field in business, is a way of thinking about business, and is a modality of management. So organizational behavior studies the influence that individuals, groups, and structures have on behavior within the organization. So the way organizations are structured, and there's different ways of structuring organizations as far as how they're going to organize the people inside. And the structure usually denotes how to group the people in departments, into divisions, and then inside these groups are the individuals. So the behavior at these three levels is critical to the success of a business. So the goal is to apply the knowledge that's been learned in organizational behavior to make businesses more effective, more efficient, and more profitable. Okay. So of course, organizational behavior is going to focus on a number of important things, such as jobs, work, absenteeism, employee turnover, productivity, human performance, and management. So these are all focus points of organizational behavior. And core topics inside of organizational behavior are going to include motivation. And we do have chapters on motivation, leadership, behavior, power, interpersonal communications, group structure, attitude development, perception, change process, conflict and negotiation, designing of work environments. So these are all part of organizational behavior. So it's a really interesting study. And specifically, if you have experience in the working world, this book will tie together some of the things that you already know, but just didn't have a way of expressing. Okay, so when we talk about organizational behavior, we can think of intuition. So your gut feeling as an explanation of behavior. So you have your own intuition. When you meet somebody, you say, I like this person, I don't like this person. You think that you have your own instinctual feelings about situations or events, which is a way you have of reading people or understanding, watching their actions, trying to interpret or predict what they may do in different conditions or situations. So it's sort of like your common sense wrapped up in your feelings to kind of predict your relationship with people or how people will react to you. Now, so the problem with intuition is that sometimes it can be wrong. I think we've all had a situation where we met somebody and we thought this person's horrible and they wound up to be great. Or I had many situations where I started a job and I thought to myself, okay, these people are going to be problems. And it turned out that they were my best friends. So intuition can be wrong. That's why organizational behavior likes to think of things in a systematic approach, in a systematic study to improve the accuracy in predicting behavior or understanding somebody. So in a systematic approach, we're not going to just assume behavior is random. So we're going to assume behavior is not random, that there's a rationale behind it. So we're going to look for important facts to provide a base from which we can make more accurate predictions. So there are fundamental consistencies that drive people's behavior. And these can be identified and these can be modified to reflect individual differences. So this concept is that, this is studyable. We can study behavior. We can look for, things aren't random. This is core to this research. So we can, these fundamental consistencies are very important to understanding because they allow us to make predictable judgments of behavior. So behavior is generally predictable, and systematic study of behavior means making reasonably accurate predictions based on what we can observe. So if we're looking at relationships, there's an attempt to define cause and effect, basing our conclusions on some sort of scientific evidence. So this is just basically saying that you can't just think you know every situation, everybody, and how, and just intuition alone to tell you what's going to happen. Using a systematic study approach in a business environment can help understand and predict behavior of companies and individuals. So what we're doing with the systematic study is we're going to look at relationships and we're going to attempt to define, attribute causes and effects. So we're going to, observe. Think of it, just like, you would observe someone you're very close to. After a long period of time, there's a lot of evidence to say, if this occurs, this is what this person will do. So we base conclusions on the scientific evidence, and we gather data, and we to help control the conditions. So data is measured, interpreted, in a very rigorous and scientific approach. So, just the mere fact, if you know someone very well, you have a good database of how they act, what they do in certain situations, and you start to feel comfortable with them because you understand them better. So a systematic approach, and that's why you may change your opinion about somebody once you get to know them, because basically you have more data to really judge them upon, not just your initial intuition. So that's why the systematic approach is something that works very well inside of organizational behavior. And further on, the EBM, evidence-based management, is something that works with the systematic study. So complements systematic study using management decisions on the best available scientific research. So we take our decisions and we try to figure out, okay, what's the best information we know in the situation, and let's put that together. And so managers have to become more scientific in their thinking, more logical in their thinking and their approaches on how they're going to manage a company. So when you have a managerial problem, you want to think of it in a more scientific approach. So if you have a question, or if you have a problem, you want to really do some research and seek out some evidence and relevant information that will help you to support your decision. So your decision isn't just a quick off-the-hip decision. It's actually based on some real information, some real scientific backing of what to do in particular situations. Because chances are, as a manager, you haven't been the first to encounter this problem, because in most cases this problem has existed, it's been studied, and the best course of practices and understandings have already been documented through research. So looking at your management job is more of a scientific job, where a big part of your job is to understand human behavior within an organization. It gives you a more detached and a more professional manner about how you go about things and doing things the best way. Okay, so let's talk about big data. So what is big data? This is a term that's been thrown around a lot lately. And what it basically means is just taking large chunks of data, using statistics to put together some sort of analysis to learn some information. So in our world today, data is being collected about us continuously through our internet usage, through all our purchasing usage on credit cards or value loyalty cards. Everything we're doing, there's a huge amount of data on us. There's huge amounts of data on corporations. It's just data everywhere. And the best way to organize and understand data is a statistical approach. So we want to be able to identify persistent and predictive statistics within the data, and create targeted marketing strategies as far as how can we use this data to better, when I was giving you examples of your internet usage and your shopping usage, that's you can figure out marketing strategies based on this data. I could advertise to you things you're more likely to buy, and I could put tailored specific individual coupons or advertisements on your web pages. That's going to be something related to your last search on Amazon or your last purchasing history. But if you think of it the other side, you could use big data for managerial practices as well. So you can, hopefully use big data to define objectives, develop theories of causality, test theories to see which employee activities are relevant to the objectives. So big data is a pool, a wealth of information that organizational behavioral researchers can dip into to help define what organizational behavior is and how managers can better utilize their information to run the organization more efficiently. Okay, so let's look at contributing fields inside of organizational behavior. So organizational behavior is it's a amalgamation of many fields that look from groups and individuals all the way up. Groups and organizations all the way up to the individual. So if we stop the group, we started the group and organizational phase at the bottom, that's sort of anthropology. And then if we get a little bit more focused, we're going to look at sociology. Then we get more towards the individual, it's social psychology, and at the individual level, it's just psychology. So, in anthropology, we look at comparative values, comparative attitudes, cross-culture analysis, When we move more into sociology, we look at how people in an organization fit into the culture, how power, communication, conflict, intergroup behavior work together. To formalize organizational theory in technology and change and culture, that's all sociology. But the social psychology is more about behavioral change, attitude change, communication, group process, group decision making. And this is where, we make that leap from the group work to the individual. So in the individual side is the more of the psychology, where in organizational behavior, we're interested in learning, motivation, personality, emotions, perception, training, leadership, job satisfaction, decision making, on an individual basis, performance appraisal, attitude assessment, employee selection, work design, work stress. So all these fields of study can help, better define where how organizational behavior can use elements from all of these disciplines to make a more efficient and effective workplace. Okay. Now, when we say absolutes, there are few absolutes in organizational business, meaning that it's impossible to make really simple and accurate generalizations because each individual, it starts at the individual level. Each individual is different. And each individual will contribute to a group that's a unique group. And these numbers of unique groups make up unique corporations. So it's very difficult to make up one absolute set of rules or understandings that's going to cover everybody. And this slide basically is showing that culture also plays a big role as far as how things are understood, how, in this particular situation, looking at a sign language, thumbs up, how in some cultures, American cultures is good, Iranian or Australian cultures, it's bad. So there are a lot of variables at play, so that's why there are a few absolutes in organizational behavior. Okay, so challenges and opportunities for organizational behavior as a group. One such area is economic pressure. So when we're gonna, in other slides we'll discuss this, but when the economy is in stress, that puts stresses on the organization. Globalization, as global factors of competition and global norms and regulations change, that's going to put a stress on the organization and the individual. Managing workplace diversity. We have a very diverse environment, and that could lead to certain factors of stress and lack of productivity. Improving customer service is always a big challenge for organizational behavior. And customer service has come a long way. If you look at it back, at one point customer service was when you came to return something, you were sort of on trial for trying to return a product. What was wrong with the product? Why did you open it? It's damaged. We're not going to accept it. So customer service at one point a number of years ago was confrontational. And then companies started to realize, hey, are we losing more than we're gaining by having such a combative customer service policy, specifically for returns? And they said, you know what? We figured it out. If we just accept it with a smile and say, sorry, you didn't like it, even if we're losing money on accepting that return, we'll have a happy customer that's going to come back and buy more and more and more. So in the end, we'll win out. So let's change our customer service attitudes as far as returns. This is an example how research and organizational behavior can change a fundamental dynamic of a corporation and lead to more profits. Because I think all of us, if we went to return something that it really was a legitimate return and we were treated like criminals, we would not want to shop back at that company. In today's environment, businesses realize that and they've changed their policies on how they, treat customers. So, and that's just one situation. There's many types of customer service, and what the ultimate goal of organizational behavior is to find a win-win situation where the customer is happy and the corporation is going to be happy and make more profits. Improving people's skills. These are other challenges. Working in networked organizations, enhancing employee well-being at work. Creating a positive work environment, improving ethical behavior. These are all challenges and opportunities for organizational behavior. Let me give you one example of positive work environment. When I first started working, it was ludicrous to think that you could bring your pet to work. But it was totally acceptable to drink alcohol at work, smoke cigarettes, and harass other people. Not a problem. And in today's environment, it's completely, excuse me, it's completely different. In many corporations, it's okay to bring a pet to work, or workplaces have a pet that is part of the workplace. And smoking and drinking is completely outlawed at the corporate level, as well as most types of harassment, hopefully all types of harassment. Okay, so let's talk about economic pressure. So what happens when the economy goes into recession? It can make the manager's life much harder in bad economic times. So good management can be the difference between survival or failure when profits are draining away through bad economic environments. So they could really make or break a company, especially when the company is being stressed by a recession. And being lived through a number of recessions myself, I've seen how companies with bad organizational behavior sometimes take advantage of the recession and say, okay, there's a recession, our employees can't find other jobs right now. We can, let's stop giving raises. Let's, cut the contribution to 401k. Let's demand more of our workers. And really, corporations seize these bad economic times to take advantage of their employees. And believe me, employees remember that when things get better, and they're going to be the first to jump ship to a better company once the economy improves. So the one great thing that keeps organizational behavioralists employed is that companies continuously make the same mistakes. So there is a good field of data information and always a company that needs help. Okay. All right, so responding to globalization. So organizations now exist in an environment with no national borders. As a result, the management jobs have changed. They need to have a broader perspective when making decisions. So as foreign assignments increase, you will need to be able to manage a workforce that is different than what you may be used to. And it may bring different needs, aspirations, and attitudes to the workplace. So globalization really changes the dynamic of the workplace, and you're working with people from different cultures. There might be movement of jobs from one country to another, and adapting to these different cultural norms in societies is a huge area of difficulty and stress for a lot of managers who aren't globally minded. So organizational behavior needs to understand this and figure out what's the best way to educate these managers and to respond to global stresses and opportunities to improve the corporate culture. Okay. So managing workplace diversity. So as the borders are disappearing, we are seeing more and more heterogeneity in the workplace. So managers today need to embrace diversity and find ways to manage it effectively. The changing demographics have shifted management philosophy in a way that recognizes and utilizes differences to create productivity, profitability, and welcoming other cultures. So diversity poses great opportunities and challenges, questions for managers and employees of all countries. So managers must recognize the differences and ways to utilize those differences to improve organizational behavior. So if anybody today who's been to work, you know that organizations are much more diverse in terms of people of gender, race, age, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. So all these people, the idea here is that you can't let prejudices and you can't let people's individual attitudes affect the workplace organization in a negative way, because that will make people unhappy, and unhappy people don't work well. But organizations that seize the opportunity and work on the strengths of the diversity to understand as many people as possible are better able to make policies and products and a corporate culture that's accepting to all, which generally leads to a better company, a more profitable company, and a company that could sell to all different types of individuals because they can understand their needs and their perspectives. Okay. Okay, so improving customer service and people skills. So most workers develop in developed nations will work in service-oriented jobs. And that's critical to organizational success that workers improve their customer service skills and people's customer service and people skills. So customer service is how your organization communicates to its customers and how it serves them. So you have to know what will please your customer, and these skills on dealing with your customer in both good and bad situations is critical to the success of your business. So this is a big area of organizational behavior. Working in networked organizations. So as technology continues to become an integral part of organizational effectiveness, workers will find that their communication styles and needs will change as well. So managers must stay on top of what is needed to motivate workers in this environment. So it's about communication, using technologies to communicate, and how to succeed in a networked organization, because all our organizations today are networked. Enhancing employee well-being at work. So here, the line between work and non-work were blurred as managers increasingly deal with conflicts that arise between work life, between work and life away from work. So in this particular situation, we have to, how can I say this? If we want the employee to work well and be comfortable and productive in the work environment, we have to also think about the conflicts they have at home that they bring into work, such as childcare, such as family concerns, elderly parents, things like this, that sometimes people bring their problems from the outside of their life. It can affect their corporate work output. So companies that make it easier for employees to deal with many of the life challenges, such as on-site child daycare, such as programs to help with elderly parents or programs to help with time management of their employees, will make a more productive and happier employee and a more profitable company. Okay, so creating a positive work environment. Positive organizational behavior is a growing interest in OB. So promoting the idea that the exploiting employees' strengths rather than focusing on employees' limitations or weaknesses. So we want to stay on the positive cusp of things. So organizations, we want to look to reinforce good behavior, to award good behavior, to focus on what the employee can do well and grow these strengths and unlock their potential. And we want to focus more on the good and less on the bad. So we want to do things in a way that respects the employee, values their contribution, because this gives them, you'll get more from the carrot than the stick, basically. So giving rewards, giving recognition, developing a person's natural areas where they're successful, rather than focusing on the negativity all the time. Because a lot of times you may have a manager that has this negative loop where they're always criticizing or always commenting on all the negative stuff, and they really don't focus equally on the positive. So this is really just an idea where if you create a more positive work environment, your employees are going to be more productive, happier, and they're going to find roles that are best suited to them. Okay, improving ethical behavior. So today's highly competitive global economy has created a work environment in which employees may feel pressured to make poor decisions. So moreover, there is generally a greater tolerance for unethical behavior. This has prompted many companies to try to help employees navigate these ethical dilemmas using tools such as seminars, workshops, as well as a formal code of ethics. So it is critical that managers understand these ethical dilemmas and understand how they can help employees, as well as themselves, make more correct ethical choices. So you need to identify what's right and wrong, and it can be difficult in global terms, in different cultures, how to really approach this. So companies need to have a strong ethical mission, and managers need to have to produce and display ethical examples and lead by examples to provide a strong leadership to hopefully influence the employee to act ethically as well. So it sort of starts at the top and filters down. So a strong ethical behavior will help protect the company from lawsuits, will help make a better work environment, and help people feel better about what they're doing and how they conduct their work life. Okay, so in this book, excuse me, it's going to focus at the individual levels from chapters 2 to 8 and the group levels from chapters 9 to 14. And at the very end of the book, there's going to be some organizational system level. For this course, we're going to focus mostly on the individual and group levels of organizational behavior. Okay, so how is this going to impact, how does the organizational behavior concept and model affect managers? What are the implications for managers? Well, it's critical for your understanding of how organizations behave. So you have to understand how an organization behaves, and this course will utilize that model to look at behavior as an individual and groups, and to a certain extent, organizational levels as well. So we're not going to rely on generalizations. We're going to use proper metrics and situational variables rather than intuition to explain cause and effects in relationships. We're going to increase leadership potential by improving interpersonal skills. We can improve technical and conceptual skills and stay current on the trends of big data. We're going to recognize the role of organizational behavior on employee work quality and productivity. And we're going to use organizational behavior to help design and implement change programs to improve customer service and address the work-life balance conflict. All right, so keep in mind, organizational behavior is, we want to use organizational behavior to help understand and predict behavior within the organization. And we want to understand the fundamental consistencies that underline this behavior. Now, keep in mind that the goal of organizational behavior is to understand and then predict behavior so that we can improve organizational effectiveness, which helps to improve corporate profits. And this assumes that there's a consistency in the behavior that can be systematically studied to develop patterns that will help increase the accuracy of predicting what's going to happen based on past events. And these concepts, understanding what can go right, what can go wrong, we can apply to a rapidly changing business environment so that managers and employees can learn to cope with issues and problems effectively to lead to a more positive work environment that improves productivity, employee satisfaction, ultimately customer satisfaction, and corporate profits. Okay, so in summary, in this chapter 1 is really just an introduction to organizational behavior, and we talked about the importance of interpersonal skills, and we defined organizational behavior, showed how systematic study is important for organizational behavior, identified the major behavioral science disciplines that contribute to organizational behavior, demonstrated how there are few absolutes in organizational behavior, that there's a lot more unique situations, identified the challenges and opportunities that managers have in utilizing organizational behavior to make corporations better, to make their job more effective, and then identified the levels of analysis for organizational behavior. So that is basically what this course is going to be about. So right now you have the main concepts of this class, and the further chapters that we're going to dive into are going to develop and expand upon these concepts. Okay, well, that's it for chapter 1. Thank you for your time, and you'll be hearing from me soon.